Episode of the Laugh in Nazareth, and thank you for joining us on this wonderful Tuesday night in Southern California. Cold Southern California. It's about 60 degrees, and we're watching the weather. If it gets any cooler, we have to do something. Maybe call FEMA or something. But I do live in Southern California because some people complain, like, oh, we're in California and it's snowing here. Yeah, if you're in Northern California, it's snowing. Sometimes people like in the east, like towards Palm Spring and towards Victorville, it might snow there, but never here. I've been living in this Southern California, Corona and Orange County for over 30 some years. Haven't seen snow yet. The closest it got is some hail, but hey, that was it. Happy New Year is still a New Year. Probably, but most of you already broke your um, what do you call it? Broke your New Year resolution. I had one, and it was broken that same day. I didn't want to eat carbs and end up eating a whole cake and a pizza on top of it. So it's over. But anyway, but I stay healthy. I mean, I just celebrated my birthday yesterday. And I won't tell you how old I am because I don't use the American Standard System. I use metric, so I'm about 25, but close enough. But I've been healthy. I work out every day or every other day. I walk daily. I take my vitamins, and I really credit not a lot, but I credit some of my health lately to that vitamins company, Professional Botanicals, which sponsors the show. So I'm gonna play the video, and then we'll get to our exciting creative guest.
Whether it's physical activity, obesity, diet, smoking, low on hormones, stress, sleep disorders, or your age, can be supported by reducing inflammation and aiding the body to heal itself appropriately. A stem cell is a cell waiting to be told what it needs to be. If there is inflammation, that inflammation needs to be stopped. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, kidney disease, various types of cancer, depression, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune disorders, osteoporosis, even fatty liver are chronic signs of inflammation and can be aided by supporting the body's ability to protect those cells that it needs, removing the inflammation. And that is the purpose of ImmuStem and AdaptoStem together, supporting the body to be the best it can be.
Alrighty, those are the ones I use daily, and they've been helping me a lot. And so, anyway, right now I'm excited, ladies and gentlemen. This is our episode 114. 114 weeks together, plus few weeks that we were off for various reasons. I'm either traveling or doing shows that I could not do it. But my guest, Bob Stromberg, is a very funny man. From his home in St. Paul, Minnesota, he travels all over the world performing his very unique and perfect blend of story, stand up, and shtick. He is the co author of one of the original stars of the megahit theatrical comedy Triple Espresso, which has been seen by almost 2 million people from San Diego to the West End of London. Chicago Sun Times called Bob a mesmerizing physical comedian. The London Times called him a genuinely funny man, and so he is. Would you please welcome my friend Bob Stromberg? Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Nas. Pleasure to
How
be here.
how are you?
I am well. Hey, I wanted to say to you that and you know this in our profession, and I'm sure it's true with other people, not in our profession, but people who travel a lot. Friendships are different, especially for many of us who've spent lots of our weekends traveling. Weekends are the time when people normally get together to have fun and to form community. And you and I have been often traveling on weekends. And in my case, I've been traveling for 40 years of weekends almost. So
Wow.
community is a different kind of thing, but we make connections like you and I have made. We've been together, I don't know, 3 or 4 times ever, I think. And yet if somebody said, you know, Naz, I would say, yeah, Naz is my friend, and I feel that, and I feel like you would be there for me, and I would be there for you if we ran into each other. So it's
Same.
a unique thing, and I appreciate it very much.
And it is, and we know that, and we're good at, even though we don't connect when we get together or when we talk. Boom! It's like we haven't missed any. The last time I worked with you, we were at the Indianapolis Convention Center with the Gaither, and
Yes, right.
and I worked with you a few times before, once with Ken Davis and a couple other. Every time you were there, you amaze. You're the guy. I mean, sometimes when you're a comic and you're prepping for your show and you do your show and you just you're focusing about your show, and if you're done, you're just taking in how great or what you did wrong or which material, or if you're not ready to go up, you're thinking, okay, what am I gonna do? But when you're on stage, I mean, we are just sucked in to watch what Bob Stromberg gonna do next. You
Oh,
are
I'm
so
flattered.
creative. You are no, no, no. You're very creative. You've always been professional. Everything, even your movement on stage, which some people need to go. If you don't know Bob Strom, you need to go check him out and see what he does with shadow puppets. You think everybody can do shadow puppets? You watch him, and then the other stuff that you do, just amazing. So tell me, let's go back to trip before that. Let's go back. You were born in Minnesota. Were you born in Minnesota?
No, actually, I was born in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I lived there until I was 18. My dad was a high school principal. My mom was a teacher. I would have been the class clown. That was my greatest desire in life, had my dad not been a principal and my mom not been the teacher. So that was pretty much impossible for me to achieve that. But then I realized I'm not doing shtick here. I'm just telling you the truth now. I saw my first comic when I was 8 years old, not live, but the first comic I remember seeing 8 years old on Ed Sullivan, and it
Mhm.
was Richard Pryor,
Oh
and
yes,
he was on Ed Sullivan, so he was safe, he was
when he
clean,
was doing the clean stuff.
man,
Yeah.
and he was it's a tall, skinny guy in a black suit and white shirt and little string, not string tie, but skinny tie back there in the early '60s. Very, I mean, it's hilarious. And my dad, and I was 8 years old, and my dad, of course, he's my dad, and we're laughing hard, both of us together. We're laughing hard, and in fact, I often tell people this is the first I remember it because it's the first time I ever laughed so hard that milk shot out my nose. So,
You know
and
why
which
I
was
remember it? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'll tell you why I remember. Yesterday, I was watching an ad for the Lifetime PBS, and it was about this 15 CDs about the life of Richard Pryor,
sure, sure,
and they
yeah.
put that the Ed Sullivan Show. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, he
But
was funny.
were you?
Milk shot out my nose, which was really totally unexpected because I hadn't had any milk all day. So that was a very strange thing to happen. But
Was your
it,
dad laughing? Did anything to you to do that to bring
oh,
laughter?
absolutely. Oh, no, it did everything to me because it to have that connection with my dad, and we've always been very close. He's a wonderful man. He is a wonderful father. Still, he's 93 years old. In fact, I told him, I said, Dad, don't FaceTime me tomorrow night. Okay. No FaceTiming tomorrow night because I'm doing a podcast. I won't be able to answer your call. Okay, I'll remember. And I didn't think you would, but we'll see what we'll see if
We'll
he
find.
tries to
We'll bring him on the
call
show
in.
if you can.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that meant everything to me that I was laughing with my dad. We were doing that together. And I always had the ability to make my mom and dad laugh, which just tickled me. It tickled me. And that was really at the root of for me thinking I want to do that someday.
Were you the youngest, the oldest? Were you the only child?
I was in the middle, two sisters,
Two
two
sisters.
sisters. Yeah, 3 years older and 9 years younger.
Now, to people who are watching and listening, we're going to get into creativity and you're going to learn something tonight. Even if you're not an artist, you're going to get into that reservoir of creativity and we'll talk about that. But we want to get to know the man, Bob Stromberg, before we get there. So, Bob, when's the first time you went on stage and what was that like?
First time the first times I remember going on stage were when I was 5, 6 years old.
Mm.
I played in an accordion band. And
Oh,
in
everybody had an
fact,
accordion.
this is I don't have many of these little things around my house, but I have a couple little of these mementos in my office here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's an accordion
Yeah.
on there, and
Uh-huh.
it says second place in the Cactus Kid Accordion Studio, 1961.
Whoa.
Bobby Stromberg. It says on the back there.
And that
Um,
was in
but
Pennsylvania, right?
that was in Pennsylvania, and I played the accordion from the time I was 5 until the time I was 12. I remember being as a 5-year-old, my our director, my teacher, chose me to be when we would do these festivals around our part of northern Pennsylvania. It's all very rural area, and she gave me the job to introduce the numbers. And the reason she gave me that job is because as a 5-year-old, I was so cute. And I was the littlest one. All the other kids were 8 and 9 years old. I was 5. And so
Uh-huh.
she let me come to the microphone and talk into the microphone and say what our next number was going to be. And I remember this so specifically. I misread the name Hank Williams. And I said, this next song, Your Cheating Heart, is written by, and I was looking at the page, Honk Williams. Well, the audience went crazy. And I thought, ooh, I got some
Oh.
material here. So the next time I walked out there in the next program for a different audience, I did the same thing identically. I
Oh.
stood and looked at it
Oh.
and I said, Honk Williams. And everybody laughed. And then afterwards, my teacher said, Bobby, we will not be doing that again. Okay. His name is Hank Williams. But that's the first time I remember
That's
performing on
funny.
stage with my accordion. Yeah.
That, that's
Yeah.
funny. And then when did you, like you go, okay, I'm gonna do stand up or whatever you do. I can't just.
Yeah.
It's unfair to call it just stand up because.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand. I realized early on that I wanted to perform. I was an athlete in high school. I realized that after I got out of high school, I realized that though I was able to be a star in my hometown in northern Pennsylvania, I went to Chicago to college, and I realized I would not have made the team on the worst team in the city of Chicago. I wouldn't have made a team. I also realized,
Are you saying the Vikings are better than the
yeah,
Steelers?
right. That's right. Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
but I remember also realizing in high school that I really wasn't competitive. I didn't have and my dad mentioned this to me once too. He said, I don't think you really have a competitive bone in your body. And I didn't. It wasn't the competition I loved out there, wanting to win. I wanted to perform. I
Mm.
wanted to be in front of people doing something and having people clap. I mean, I know this sounds so self-centered, and it probably was, frankly, but that's the truth. I wanted to be a performer. That was in my genes early on, and so I experimented with stuff. I was in school plays. I learned how to play guitar. I started writing music. I was a counselor at our Bible camp when I was for 4 years, my last 2 years of high school, first 2 years of college. I was writing songs, singing in groups, singing in bands, thinking, oh, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll be the singer guy. And then I actually pursued that early on, and this was really at the beginning of Christian music back in the 70s. That's when late 60s, early 70s. And I realized once I forgot my guitar didn't make it on the plane where I was going to some Christian camp somewhere, and I spent the evening just telling the stories that I told in between songs, and people loved it. And I thought, well, I could probably do that. And then I went with one band I was in. We went to Europe for 6 weeks, and I got a chance to in Paris to see the great mime Marcel Marceau. And I thought to myself, man,
Oh.
I'd love to learn how to do some of that stuff in my body. So I came back to the States, went to a school in the state of Maine in a big 4-story horse barn up there called Celebration Mime Theater. and
Mhm.
studied with an amazing teacher who really, he didn't teach, he taught people how to do silent mime if that's what they did, but his real gift was recognizing um, each individual person's special stuff. And he went right at that. So he never said to me, you should learn how to do silent mime, put on the
Mhm.
white face and do mime, because he knew that verbally, and he also knew, um, well, he certainly knew with my body movement that I had some stuff. And he really went at that. But then he encouraged me to, no, you shouldn't be silent. You should talk to people, but use your body, learn how to use your body in communicating. So I learned a lot from him. I studied for 2 years at that school, and then I
Mhm.
met a guy there, and he also was a brother in Christ, and he said, "What do you plan on doing when we're done here?" And I said, "Well, I said I'm married, and I have to make a living, and so I'm thinking maybe I'll go around to schools and knock on doors and see if anybody would maybe let me do an assembly program." I remember that happening back in my hometown, and he
Mhm.
said, "Any chance we could do that together?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great. I don't have to do it by myself. We can be out there and support each other." So we worked together for 12 years. And in that time, we did, well, in fact, I have a pile of calendars back here in in that
Oh, you
bookcase.
keep your calendars too, yeah.
Well, I found one from 1985. And in 85, we did 475 school assembly programs, the two of us. So
Was
we
that
were
Bob
really
Arnold? Was that Bob Arnold or no?
Bill Arnold, or excuse me,
Bill
no, that was
Arnold,
no, I'm sorry, that was Michael Cooper. I'll tell you
Michael
about Bill
Cooper.
here in a moment. But so we worked together for 12 years, went great. But then we started kind of going different directions in terms of what we wanted to do with our material. He was into doing a lot of mask work, and he was fantastic. Still is, by the way. Um, but we decided to go our separate ways. Wonderful, loving family, happy terms, and in fact, we're good buddies even today. And and then I pursued music and comedy. And in that process, I worked for about 5, 6 years and was in Chicago for a National Youth Workers Conference. And there was a magician there named Bill Arnold. And he said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Well, I'm here in Chicago," but I said, "We're moving to Minnesota." He goes, I live in the Twin Cities. Are you coming there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Look me up when you get there." So we moved up here. My wife and I moved up here with our two sons who were in junior high at that time. We moved up here to Minnesota, to the Twin Cities, and I was asked to be on a radio show called Sunday Night Alive. It was kind of a prairie home companion, a Christian prairie home companion kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
That had been going for 7 or 8 years at that point, live radio show. And they asked me to come on for one evening, and it went well. And they said, would you like to continue to do this?" I said, "Yeah." Well, the musical director in that show was a guy named Michael Pierce Donnelly. He said, "Let's have breakfast." And I said, "I'm having breakfast with Bill Arnold. Why don't you come and we'll have it together?" So the three of us got together. And at that breakfast, somebody said, "We should write a play." And I said, we will never write a play unless we book it first, because we're all so busy that we'll never get around to doing it if we don't book it
Right.
first. And Bill Arnold said, "Well, I've lived here my whole life. I know a lot of pastors. I'll ask some guys if they want to have if they might want to have a family night at their church." So Christ Presbyterian Church in Edina, Minnesota, hired us. We wrote an hour-long show, of which and 600 people showed up, and we did
Wow.
this show that we called Triple Espresso, and about 25 minutes of it was pretty good stuff. The rest of it, not so good. So we took another month. We kept writing. We put together a solid hour, did it at another church. At that performance, a director was there from the city, from a theater in town, who said, "Would you want to, if you develop this into a 2.5 hour full play, I mean, meaning with an intermission, 2.5 hours, would you like to do 6 weeks at my theater?" And it's a really prestigious, beautiful place downtown. And we said yes. So we took a year. And in '96, we opened downtown Minneapolis at the Music Box Theater for 6 weeks, thinking we might lose our shirts, if not our homes. But in 3 weeks, we had a huge hit. And we were packed. We had 400 seats in that theater, and we were packing it out 7, 8 shows a week at that time. And we realized we were supposed to do 6 weeks. We can't. We have to keep this thing going. But we had already arranged to come to San Diego to do it at Lamb's Theater there.
Yeah,
And so we auditioned three more guys in the last 3 weeks of the show in Minneapolis. We brought those three guys in, trained them during the day, did our shows at night, put them in the last weekend, and then we kept it going to Minneapolis. We went to San Diego. That show that we started for 6 weeks, it ran 13 years without stopping in Minneapolis. And that's originally 8 shows, but then eventually we couldn't take it anymore. 7 shows a week in Minneapolis. And then at Lamb's Theater, it moved downtown to the Horton Grand Theater in San
yeah,
Diego. And Lamb's Theater was in Coronado. And it ran for 11 and a half years there.
that's
So
amazing.
it was an amazing run. In fact, we continued to do Triple Espresso we've been to 80 cities, and we were in the West End of London, and it just was an amazing experience. It was right time, right place, and we said, God's timing and the whole thing. It was really something.
Tell me, because every time I see you perform or I watch you, you're very, very creative. And you said something in one of your programs, and it says every one of us have a reservoir of creativity, but sometimes we think we don't think we do. I mean, I think I do because I'm a performer. I have to. I
Sure,
dig into it
sure,
every
yeah.
day. But what do you tell someone who's not a performer watching this or listening to this and going, how can I be creative? I'm looking at people and they write every day. They do blogs. They do shows. We do a show called Live with Naz every single night. How do you, how can you be creative? Speak to the lay person.
Normally, people, when they think about creativity, they think they think that people they think there are people who are born with the gift of creativity. I don't believe that creativity is a gift. I believe that creativity is a craft, which is to say that you can practice it and get better at it the way you could with any other craft, like
Mm,
woodworking or painting. I mean, I don't. I'm using craft. Um, I don't mean to make it sound a derogatory word. It's something you can practice and get better at. We are all born with a gift, however, and the gift that we're born with is a desire and a capacity to experience creativity. We're all born with that, every one of us. When you were a toddler, and we all rolled from our back. We're laying in the living room rug. We rolled from the back to the front, and boy, we were excited about that. And one day we got up and rocked back and forth on our hands and knees, and it was like, why would you ever want to do anything else? This is so fun. We were experimenting with what we had with our bodies. We were practicing and experiencing that. Um, we took that crayon and we dragged it across a piece of white paper, or as was the case with our oldest son, who is an artist now, a grown man now, of course. He took the pink magic marker and colored in all the little white flowers on mom and dad's brand new couch. So
ouch!
yeah,
Ouch!
so but we all did that. We all practiced that. But then something happened around oh first second grade with that excitement that we had about creativity. And I believe what happened is it got educated right out of us. We learned early
Mm,
on in our school experience that you have to put in the right answer at the end of right in the right fill in the blank. You have to put the right answer in there, the exact answer, and you have to put the exact number at the bottom of the math program. And if you don't, you get a red check mark and you get a bad mark on your grade mark, and then you get embarrassment in front of your friends, or you get punishment or unhappiness at home. And we learned right away, I got to put the right answer in there. Creativity doesn't work like that. Creativity is not about getting the one right answer. It's about looking at many possible answers and trying them all and experimenting with them and discovering where those answers go, even if they aren't the right answer. Where do they go? That's what creativity is, and
mm,
it really is that process of learning how to practice again. So we lose it. Most of us lose our excitement about it in those elementary, junior high, and high school years. Then we're going, there's something missing. And very often that's what it is. We're not doing what we were created to do. All of us were created to experience creativity, but we don't do it because it doesn't fit in. To our the society we were brought up in. But if we learn how to practice again, if we learn how to practice the fundamentals of creativity, we start to experience it again, and it can be done. I know it can be done. I came up with this. I've never heard anybody else say that, but I have since I put together a course called Mastering Craft Creativity, and
I
since
I was
putting
I joined that. I signed
yeah
up for that, and I was watching it. It's amazing.
yeah yeah since putting that together, I've read a whole lot of creativity that really affirms what I discovered for myself, and I did that by realizing several years ago that I had been doing this for what I do for 40 years, and I thought that's pretty amazing. 40 years, how have I done that? And I realized I had been practicing and experiencing creativity every step of the way, every all along the way. It's like, well, that happened because I creatively did this or discovered that. Creativity was a part of the whole thing. And then I started thinking, well, what is that? What has that process been? And through that, I discovered this whole idea that creativity it's not just a gift that some people have. We all have the desire, we all have the capacity, but not everybody then practices it, disciplines themselves to practice creativity and get good at it the way you would a craft. And that's why I call it the craft of creativity rather than the gift of creativity.
Now, Bob, how can someone go, okay, well, I don't know what is mine. For example, I'm not speaking for myself. What
Yeah,
is mine? Is it painting? Is it drawing? Is it writing? Is it
yeah,
working with
yeah.
my hands? How can they, I mean, do they have to try everything in the whole gamut how can you tell?
Well, I think you do have to, if you really don't know, like what should I do, you do have to try some things, and then but you'll find something, and you don't need to think about it being painting, drawing, songwriting, maybe writing a novel or writing a play. It could be decorating your house. It could be organizing your garage. It could be, um, you think outside the box when you're doing that. But really, what you're looking for is that thing that makes you excited. That
Mm.
I would like to try that. I remember walking down when Triple Espresso was in Dublin, Ireland for a couple of years. I went back and forth and did the show there several times. And I would walk after the show, I would walk a half an hour back to my apartment. And I walked by an art store. And in that art store, there was a beautiful wooden box. And it was filled with pastels, I'm calling them pastel crayons. They're not actually crayons. They're more like paint, but they're pastel sticks. And they are all put in there in this rainbows of color, subtle different colors. And the box itself was beautiful. And I would stop there every night going, man, I wish I had that. Boy, would that be fun to play with that. I would like to try that. And then I thought, well, I should try that. So I did. I bought a small set of pastels and some paper and asked a few questions and went back and started working. And I painted with pastels. Oh my! I probably painted for three years, maybe 4 years, and it
Wow.
it changed my life. It changed the way I see things. I realized that, and this happens in all types of art that you begin, creativity when you begin practicing it. It
Right.
changes the way you view the world, and painting really did that. I discovered perspective that I hadn't seen before. I discovered that if I said to somebody, "I want you to draw to paint the bumper on the back of a car," they would look probably for silver paint to paint the bumper. When if you look closely at a bumper, they aren't silver. They're dozens of colors. They're whatever is being reflected in that surface. Um,
Mm.
Clouds are very rarely just white. Shadows are very rarely gray. There's lots of colors and I never saw those things before until I started painting. So yeah,
Wow.
you do have to answer your question. That was a long way around, but you do have to sometimes try some things, try them out. Um, but I'm guessing that a lot of people have said, I've always wanted to do this. I always wanted to learn how to play the flute, or I always wanted to, you know what? I see these guys on YouTube and they have this wooden drum that they play. They sit on it and they play this drum that always looked fun to me. I'd love to try that. I like to drum on the steering wheel. I'd love to try that drum. And so those are the kinds of things that I think a lot of listeners right now would go, well, I know what that thing is for me that I've always wanted to try. And then you should give it a try if you can.
Exactly, exactly. Now, one of your gifting, one of them, is your ability to tell a story. And I know one of the greatest story I heard when you talked about your dad and you were burning your hands or something.
Oh yeah,
Do you
yeah.
mind sharing that story? I mean, that's really amazing for people who are watching right
Okay,
now.
well, let me say this. In terms of the ability to tell a story, you know this as a comic, a storyteller, and that's the kind of comedy that I do. I don't do jokes. I'm a storyteller. A storyteller practices those stories over and over and over and over again. So sometimes I'll tell stories and people will say, that's the most amazing story. It was so beautiful. And the imagery is so wonderful. And I laughed so hard. Oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming. When you said that, I was on the floor. And they think that I'm doing it for the first time. Now, if they think it through, they realize, no, he's not. I mean, he's performing for us. So clearly he's done this before. But it feels like I'm doing it for the very first time because I've done it. I've told the story 500 times or or literally, you know this, Naz, 1,000. I've told this story 1,000 times now.
Yeah,
And you think about our friends, you know, Thor, and you think about Ken Davis, who's a storyteller, and
yeah,
you know he's told those stories 1,000 times, and that's why they're so good. So when you tell me to tell the story about my son burning his hands, I can't, even as you asked me, I can't remember the applications of what that was, or even the imagery that I used. But I remember the story. If you'd like me to share that
yes,
briefly,
yes. It
yeah.
was about how the generation, your father, than you saying the same thing.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Thank you. My When I was 8 years old, I fell out of a tree in our backyard, and I broke my arm. And it wasn't a compound fracture; nothing was coming through the skin, but it was bent a bit, and of course it hurt very badly. And my dad put me in the car. I remember it was a Volvo 544 model, a red Volvo, and I sat in the front, and it was the vinyl seat in the front there, and it was really hurting, man. I'm cradling my arm, and I said to my dad, "Oh, Dad, it hurts so bad." And my dad said to me, "I wish I could take that pain. If I could, I would take that pain right out of your arm and put it in my own." And I remembered, I don't know if I said it or not, but I remember thinking, no, you wouldn't. I mean, you would maybe for a second, but if you knew what this felt like, you would never do that. I would put it right into my own if I could. Um, my dad said that to me, and that made an impression. And then many years later, in the springtime in Massachusetts, in the Berkshire Mountains, um, we had an ice storm in the winter, and many of the limbs came down in the ice storm from a big maple tree in our yard. So I decided one day I'm going to pile all those up, and we'll start a bonfire out there by the driveway. We could do that where we were, and so we piled all these sticks up, and I put some, I don't remember what I put them on, kerosene or something. I wouldn't have put gas on the fireplace, but gasoline, I mean, but I put something I knew that I could probably control. I could control, and then I started the fire. And I said to my son, "You stay back now from the fire and stuff." And he said, "I will, I will." He was only 4, and we sat by the fire for a while, and it started to die down a bit. And it was a big fire, Naz. I mean, a big fire. And my son, then I said, you know what? I have one more branch behind the garage here. I'm going to get. I just remembered, and I went to get that branch, and my son ran over to the other part of the yard and grabbed his kite. And because the wind was blowing so hard in this late March day, the kite just took off, and he started running with it. And he was so excited, 4 years old. And when I came around the corner of the house, I saw him running with this, and he's going, "Dad, look at this, look at this." And I realized he was running right at the fire, looking
Oh,
back at the kite. And at that point, I probably had a foot of white coals piled up there, just burning hot white coals. And I could see he was going, and I yelled to him, but it was too late. And he got right by the edge, close to the edge of the fire, and he tripped, and he fell down with his mittens right on those coals. And I
oh my
saw the
gosh.
plastic handle for the kite just disappear, just drip off his hands, and then his gloves go up in flames. And I was there by that time, and I pulled his gloves off, and he was hadn't even started crying yet. He was just looking at his hands and shaking. And I picked him up, took him in the house, put his hands under the cold water, and I said to my wife Judy, "Call the emergency room, tell them we're coming." And we headed down the hill, and of course, this point he's crying, and he said, "Oh, Dad, this hurts so bad." And I heard myself say, if I could, I would take the pain right out of those hands and
Oh,
put it in my own. And it was like deja vu at that moment. But it was also that understanding later that that's exactly what Christ has done for us. Christ has taken our sins, taken the pain of the world, and put it on Himself, so that we need not suffer that. So, you know,
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, this. I remember this. I remember a few months ago, my daughter was at the ICU room. She was 20 at the time. She's 21 now,
yeah,
and she was in severe kidney stone pain. And I didn't know what to do. I'm waiting, and what do you call, the Norco's not working and all that. And I'm going, Lord, let me take the pain. And I kind of heard the Lord saying, "You're a sissy, you can't take it." And I go,
yeah,
"Lord, how about this
yeah,
neighbor across the street that bugs me a
yeah.
lot?" But
Let
th-
Him take the pain.
let me lead to this next question.
Yeah,
I told people in the beginning, you're an amazing storyteller. And I'm going to ask you this. Why was it a red Volvo? Why did you mention the vinyl? Why did you mention it was in the Berkshire Mountains? Why did you mention it was pine tree?
yeah, yeah.
Why?
Well, I didn't intentionally mention those things. Those came into my mind. Again, if I this story is written out somewhere, I'm sure. And at one point I had it memorized, but it's been many many years. You probably heard it on Focus of the Family or something way back.
Yeah.
Um, but it's uh, I think because just having done it for so many years, I realize that it's those images that make a story come to life for the person who is listening. So when I mention a vinyl seat, you know what that feels like on your butt and your back. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like sitting in a cloth seat or a leather seat. You're sitting in a vinyl seat, and the smell of pine. People, what that is. So it evokes. It's a images are evocative that way, and they affect. Uh, they involve the senses, and when you evoke the senses that way, a story starts to come to life for you. And especially if those images, I mean, everybody know, not very many people have had a red Volvo 544 model, but they might know what it is, or they remember their old car. And
Right.
so it starts to make the story come to life.
And that's brilliant. That's what you do. Let me ask you this question, Bob. 40 some years, they were highs in the career. They were the 13 years straight, triple espresso. I'm sure there was down times where you felt, is this it? Did I hit the height of my career? How do you deal with that emotionally?
Well,
And don't
I remember.
spiritualize it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, no, no.
so.
Well, I remember in my in my when I started out in my 20s, of course, when we did NAS, we didn't know that we would be able to do this until we are the age that we are. We don't know that, you don't know the future. So in my 20s and 30s, it was like, am I going to get I wonder if I'll get a real job someday. But by the time I'm 40, I'm thinking I'm not qualified to do anything
Anything.
except what I have no skills except this. Now I understand that my skills could be utilized in sales or something else, but they wouldn't be utilized as well as they are in what I'm doing now. There's no way. Um, and then in my 40s, maybe about the time I was 50, I was thinking I might actually be able to do this until I don't work anymore. Whenever that would be, I don't know when that would be. And now this year, I'm in my 70th year now. I'll be 70
Wow.
in the summertime, and I've been doing this for 45 or 47 years, something. It's pretty amazing. I'll tell you one thing, Naz. You might enjoy this. Um, when I was in my 30s and 40s, thinking about if I could ever make it to this point, I would have never imagined that at 70, I would still have to be thinking about marketing myself.
That's
I
that's
thought,
true.
I thought that's not possible. If you can make it to your 70, you won't have to be marketing yourself anymore. There's no end to it. It never stops. It's
Yes.
just goes. The marketing part just goes on and on and on. And I've really kind of pulled away from that. I've pulled away from social media. I'm not a natural there. I'm not even a natural people person. I love to perform. I love to be in front of people. I know what my gift is. My spiritual gift would be that of encouragement. I love to encourage people. And I
Same
found that
here.
my profession does that. My profession encourages folks. I hear it all the time. That was so encouraging. Oh, I just feel so encouraged. I feel so uplifted. Well, that's a way of saying I feel encouraged. I hear it all the time. And I'm not just talking about brothers and sisters in Christ now. I'm talking about out there in the mainstream audience. I do lots and lots of corporate. I probably do primarily corporate stuff, just because that's who's booking me, not because that's what I've chosen. But I hear it all the time. It's so uplifting. It's just, we appreciate it so much, and that people are encouraged. Um, in terms of what have been the hardest things, there have been a few transitions along the way, like going into Triple Espresso, for example. That ended up occupying a good 20 years of my career. I still did get away on some weekends when I could get somebody to fill in for me. And in the summer, I could take some time off, bring somebody in for 6 weeks to take my part, and I could perform and continue doing my solo work. But it really took about 20 years of my life doing that. And it was fulfilling, and it was rewarding. And again, it was encouraging to people. And I loved working with my buddies, Bill Arnold, Michael Pierce Donnelly, and a whole cast of people. We ended up with 10 people. We ended up with 30 people who could do the play at one point. So that collaborative effort was wonderful. But the decision to go into doing that was so difficult, because you have to end something and begin something. You realize, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to not be able to do this for a while. And I remember talking to my agent, Tim Grable, and saying, I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to step away. He goes, you don't have to step away. He said, I'll just keep you on the roster here. He said, you might not do this forever. I don't think he anticipated I'd do it for 20 years, but now he's glad, because it's given me a wonderful platform to work around the country for people who know me from Triple Espresso. So,
This is funny
but
when you.
it's been such a blessing, I'll tell you, and I know you feel the same. Honestly, to be able to do what I love doing, it's crazy that I've been able to do this. It's just been remarkable. And again, it's been that process of staying creative, staying disciplined, writing. I've been writing screenplays. That's something I always wanted to do. I had somebody ask me, you want to write a screenplay with me? In fact, it was about a show that he saw me do. I'd love to write a screenplay of that show. Okay, I'll work with you. That was about 15 years ago, and we've written now 8 screen features. We haven't sold one. We've but we've worked on them consistently for 15 years. A week doesn't go by, but when I don't talk to my buddy, he lives in Maine half the year and Kansas half the year, and we write these screenplays together. And I just enjoy the process so much. And I found a brother I can collaborate with. Collaboration is a special gift. A lot of people
Right.
can't do it at all. And it's really fun when you find somebody that would know I can collaborate with him, and I can tell him I don't like this. Oh, I don't like at all what you did, and he's not offended. Okay, well, let's go. Let's rework it then. So
How is Jody feels about your career, or
yeah,
felt, or
Judy,
Judy, your
yeah,
wife?
yeah. She well, she's been a rock through all these years. She's been so helpful in enabling me to do what I do. She handles all she handles everything around the house, and she is and is a wonderful mom and now grandma, and she's remarkable. She's not a performer,
Mm.
so what I do is this sounds funny, but it's no big deal to her. That's just what my husband does. But
Same
she's
as
not a
my
performer.
wife. Yes,
She
it's
does.
no big deal.
She doesn't have it. It's not something that that's the last thing she'd want to do, is stand in front of an audience and do anything. But we learned that very early on in our marriage. So there's never any pressure from me, and she's always been remarkably encouraging. I went through a really tough couple years here. Well, this last year, frankly, starting right about now, a year ago, right now, I had a colonoscopy, which was a normal thing for me. Every 5 years, have a colonoscopy. Well, they discovered something, went
Mm.
in, had a major operation to remove it. And then they said, nope, we're not sure we got everything there, but we're going to send it in. It should be clean. Well, it came back cancerous. So
Oh,
then they had to remove a bunch of other stuff and redo my whole system. And it was a full 3 month kind of recovery deal,
mm.
last spring and summer. And then in the fall, I had a stroke, which is crazy. My cholesterol is perfect. My blood pressure is perfect. My weight is perfect. I'm in great shape. There's nothing that should have given me a stroke, but I had a
Mm.
stroke. Fortunately, it wasn't one that I'm just fine.
Yeah.
But my wife Judy, through all of this, has just been an absolute rock, and she's a woman of prayer. And I mention that to you because we all have stuff we have to deal with, and we wonder, how are we going to handle this? I'm looking at my watch only because I'm concerned about our time, but
No,
I'm
no,
going to
no.
tell you
We
this.
can go as long. There's
Okay,
no time limit.
I'm going to tell you this story quickly. Um, right before COVID, I had an event in Bismarck, North Dakota, a men's conference. Did the performance one evening. The next morning, Saturday morning, I had to fly to Baltimore, Minnesota, then Baltimore. That was my connection in Minnesota to Baltimore, and to do a performance in southern Pennsylvania. I got to the airport in Bismarck 5:30 in the morning on Saturday. Took myself out of the car, locked the car, went inside there, walked up to the Enterprise booth for the cars, and there was nobody there at 5:30 in the morning, of course.
Right.
So
So you gotta put it in the
I
box.
dropped the keys in the box, in the lock box. The sound of the keys landing in the bottom of the lock box awoke me to the fact that I had left my phone on the dash of my car. So then I'm thinking, well, maybe I didn't lock it. So I ran all the way back out to the lots, freezing cold. And sure enough, there's my phone. It's lit up on the right on the dash. I came back inside. There's hardly anybody there. 2 hours hour and a half until my flight, but it's a small airport, so there's hardly anybody there. I went to the
Right.
Delta counter, told them the situation. They gave me my paper ticket, and then they said, "Do you want to try to call?" Unfortunately, Enterprise doesn't get here until 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings,
Ouch.
so we
Ouch.
can't unlock it for you. Do you want to call them? So okay, I'll call them. So I called them, and they're so nice. The Enterprise they gave me a wonderful selection of one song to listen to for 27 minutes. They never came on 27 minutes. Nobody
Ah.
was there at 5:30 in the morning. So now time is passing. And I took this woman's phone. She was nice enough to let me take it. I took it down to the box. And first of all, I was thinking, you know what? Oh, it's okay. First, I was thinking, I don't even know where I'm going. I don't know what town in Pennsylvania I'm going to. I know I'm going to Pennsylvania. I know I'm flying to Baltimore, but I don't know where I'm going. Am I renting a car? Is somebody picking me up? What time is the sound check? Where is the church? I have none of this information. And then I thought, no, this is okay. I'll just call my agent. And then I thought, no, I won't. I don't have a phone. So I went to the lockbox and I turned on the camera and I slid it in the little crack at the top of the lockbox. And I could see on the top of the screen, I could see my keys 4 inches away. And the ring is sticking right up there, 3 or 4 inches away. And I thought, all I need is a hanger. I went back to Delta. Can we find a hanger? They looked all over the place, as did American Airlines. No hangers. So do you have a piece of wire? Is there anything? Nothing. Nothing.
Ah.
So I went back and I'm looking in the lockbox and I feel a tap on my shoulder. It's the sheriff. And he said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to get my keys out of the box." "Oh, they're your keys in there." I said, "Yeah." I showed him my rental agreement. I said, "Yes, I rented this car until 5 o'clock tonight. I need to get my keys out of it. I'll call you a locksmith." So he does that. He calls a locksmith. Locksmith comes out there 45 minutes later. He's got his old little bendy pole, he's squeezing into the window. He can't get it. And while he's
Ah.
doing that, I'm laying on the hood looking at my phone. It's lit up. I can see the time. I'm realizing I'm 10 minutes from my flight going. I can look in Bismarck. I can look and see people walking in that little crack between the jetway and the plane. They're going on the plane. And I said, "I've got to go." He said, "Well, you owe me for this." I said, "You didn't open the car." He said, "Well, yeah, but you have to pay me for the trip." I said, "Well, how much?" He said, $50. And I said, "I've got $12 on me." He said, "Well, no, I'm going to call the police." I said, "No need. Come on. I'll introduce you." I went running into the place and I ran. I sprinted. I went through security. I sprinted. They held the plane for me, which was either wonderful service from Delta or the lady wanted her phone back, probably the latter. I got on the plane. Listen, now, as you know, you get to be my age. I realized I haven't sprinted anywhere in 35 years. I mean, this is just something you don't do at this age. And I'm sweating and my heart is pounding and I'm thinking, man, I could have a heart attack doing this. And my phone is still there. It's still in the car and we take off. Well, fortunately, people were kind enough to let me use their phones to call my agent and find out where I'm going, all of that stuff. I worked that all out. But on the plane, I became so disappointed in myself because I realized on my body the whole time I had a ballpoint pen, a shoelace, and a paperclip. And with
Ah.
those three things, I could have in 30 seconds, without a doubt, I could have in 30 seconds, with the use of her phone, pulled those keys right out, gotten my phone. But I was so caught up in my crisis, in what I was dealing with. I was so caught up in it. I didn't take that breath and go, let's think now. Let's realize what do I have to handle this situation? That story has
Spiritualize it
come,
to me.
well,
Spiritual. Bring Jesus to this.
that story has come to mind so many times in this last year when I was dealing with these really dire health crises that I went through. Because I didn't want to face any of this stuff. I didn't want to go through any of that stuff. And I was saying to God, I don't want to do this. Please. In fact, Anne Lamott, the author, says
Yes,
there are
the
two
writer.
two prayers that she prays. One is help me, help me, help me. And the second one is thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you look at those two prayers, that's the Psalms right there. Help me, help me, help me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And when we find ourselves in crises, as I did this last year, praying to God, help me, help me, help me, please, God. I don't want to go through this. Help me, help me, help me. Thank you, thank you is coming because we have what we need. Or if we don't know we have it, we can count. It will be given to us because the most important thing that we need, the most valuable thing that we possess is this relationship with a loving God who is able to do infinitely and abundantly more than we can ask or even imagine. So, I mean, I've discovered that to be a truth in my life, having gone through these crises. We have what we need. You have, listener, viewer, you have what you need to deal with whatever you're going through uh, that you're struggling with right now. You have what you need.
Amen. How did Bob Stromberg came to have a personal relationship with Christ?
I uh, I I can honestly say that I knew and loved Jesus from the time I was a small boy. I'm guessing 5, 6 years of age. I
Mm.
heard about him being raised in the church. I was from a loving Christian family. I heard about him at home. Um, but in Sunday school, I remember sitting around a table and praying a prayer. An invitation was given to me by my Sunday school teacher. Would you want to pray this prayer? I said, yeah. And I prayed this simple prayer. And I remember that I confessed my sins. I don't I don't remember what they were as a 5 or 6 year old. Those my sins became more evident later in life, by the way. Uh, but I confessed my sins and I thank Jesus for dying on the cross for my sins. Can a child understand this? No. Can an adult understand this? No,
Oh.
not really. It's a faith thing. I believed it, and I said, God, I want you to come into my heart and make me your boy from this moment on. And though there were times where, I mean, sin has been a part of my life. Obviously, it's a part of all of our lives, but never have I felt I don't believe in this Jesus anymore. I don't want to follow this Jesus anymore. It's always been I want Jesus to be primary in my life. And
Mhm.
fortunately, my wife it has been primary in her life and our relationship. Jesus has been primary there. In my work, Jesus has been primary there. And that, by the way, includes all my work, even the mainstream, quote, secular work that I do. I walk into every situation, every corporate thing I do, I walk in saying, Lord Jesus, may your light shine through my eyes to these people. They won't know what it is, but God, I pray that your Holy Spirit will fill this room and that the joy of the Lord will fill this place. They won't even know what it is, God, but that's okay. Use what I do today. Help me to do it with excellence. May that bring glory to you, and may it be an encouragement and blessing to them and to me and to you. That's my prayer everywhere that I go.
What people are watching and going, what? Where can we get more of Bob Stromberg? How can we get a hold?
Yeah,
What is he
yeah.
working on?
Well, I would, by the way, if listening or watching, if you have events, I'm still doing this in my 70th year. I'm still traveling all over the country and in Canada as well. Although, frankly, if I have to keep going through the hassles of flying to Canada, I may not be doing it very much anymore. It's just, oh my goodness, with
COVID.
the tests and yeah, it's just really been a hassle. But anyway, North America, I travel. I'm still doing that all the time. When I say all the time, I have time at home here too. We have a wonderful family life here at home, but I am traveling regularly, weekly around the country. Love to come, and so you can just go to my website bobstromberg.com, and there you can. Um, the number on it is on every page of my agent. You could give them a call, just say, "Hey, we're looking at this event. Love to have you." Also, if you want to just check out my comedy, you could go to drybarcomedy.com, and you could sign up there to be a part of that. Wonderful, clean comedians from all over the world, just great. So, are you there, Naz? Are you
I
in
did
Drybar?
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
How did you feel
yeah.
about your set? How did you feel
I
about it?
I felt fantastic, and I know everybody doesn't because we all have different experiences, but I videotaping my shows has just been torture for me my whole career because you get the perfect audience and one mic doesn't work or the lights don't work or something or there's
Mhm.
a sound or whatever. And I got it good finally, so I feel good about that. It's only half an hour set,
When did
but
you
it's
do
still
it? When was it?
right before COVID.
Yeah,
November,
mine
October,
too.
November, right before. Yeah,
I was a year before COVID, so I had
yeah,
two great sets, two great audience. My
yeah,
son, John, did it during COVID, so there wasn't big audience. But
yeah.
when they said they're gonna put some audiences, edit it,
Sure,
and but
sure.
the laughter was
Yeah.
good. So, Bob, thank you so much. You're an amazing man. I feel good about myself when I'm talking to you, and you're just
Well,
one of
good.
the great
Thank you.
storytellers. And I would love to work with you again. I want to tell you, people, if you want to put an elegant event, a corporate event, even church events, whatever you want, Bob Stromberg is an amazing, amazing man. So you need
If
to.
I could just say, Naz, if anybody was interested in my course, Mastering the Craft of
Yes,
Creativity,
tell us about that.
masteringthecraftofcreativity.com. You can just go there and follow the links through. There's a couple introductory tapes, what you would experience in the course. And if you're interested after watching those introductory videos, uh, put in the code. There's a code there. It says to save money, put in made to create. Put in NAZ instead. Your code is NAZ, NAZ. And if you put that in there, it's 50% off. So love to do that for
Wow,
you. Yeah. And I'm
that's
involved.
awesome. That's a,
I'm involved with my students. As you go through the course, we correspond. If you want to, you don't need to, but we correspond. I help you with stuff. And if you're in the area, we have coffee, or if I'm in your area, we have coffee. We can do that, or we can do FaceTime together to talk specifically about stuff you're dealing with. So I invest in my students, is what I'm saying.
and it's amazing. I was listening to it. I was watching it in the beginning when you first brought it out, and you were
Yeah,
putting the free, and it was just amazing. The only reason I couldn't sign up, I was traveling so much, but
yeah.
amazing, amazing program. So, Bob, thank you so much. I pray for full recovery, complete health, and
Thank
a
you.
busy
I'm
schedule.
doing great. I'm doing very, very well.
You
Thank
look
you. Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
so much, Bob. And guys, if you're watching, thank you, Bob, so much. And if you guys are watching, remember tonight at 8:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is on Facebook, where you're watching right now, or YouTube, we have Live with Naz, an hour of laughter and encouragement. We'll laugh for 53 minutes, and for 7 minutes, we ask for your prayer request. And we just started this beautiful community of people that love to be funny and to laugh, but also would take your prayers and just marinate on it and pray for you and your family. Okay, so we'll see you then. Thank you so much, and thank you for. Please subscribe. I don't know how to make this. I'm not the greatest marketing guy, and my social media guy. It's word of mouth. So tell your friends about this podcast and subscribe to it. You heard today. You've heard. You learned. I know you. I know I learned about creativity. I know I learned. I learned about storytelling. I know I was encouraged to try new stuff. That I've always said, oh, one day I would like to do that. So please subscribe to it. Let your friends subscribe to it. And we'll see you next Tuesday, God willing. God bless you and have a